Yeah. Representative, the fact that this is all appearing to stem back to the open border crisis that we cover consistently here on Newsmax, it's just such a shame. I'm sure you've had a chance to sort of learn more about Jocelyn's family and probably the grieving process they are just embarking on following her death.
Yes, and it's sad. What's truly sad is the administration was notified of this. Back in September of 2022, I sent a letter to Secretary Mayorkas and said, hey, listen, Border Patrol has been alerted. They're saying that we got individuals coming in out of Venezuela, and there's some bad hombres. We know under the dictator Maduro, he's releasing individuals from his prisons. He's placing them in these caravans, and they're coming into the United States. And Venezuela is in shambles. Their inflation's over 220%. Their homicide rate there is 6 times what ours is, and they've got a 50% poverty. So he's sending these individuals in these caravans into the United States, and then we are releasing them. When an individual from Venezuela comes here, we don't really have a database to determine what the individual, who he is, what kind of a citizen was he like in Venezuela. We don't have the ability to do so. So we're releasing these individuals into our country, and now you have individuals like Jocelyn, that young lady. Congratulations to Senator Cruz for generating some positive a bill here, and we must pass it. Lake and Riley. I mean, this has got to stop. The blood is on the hands of this administration.
And Senator Cruz, your bill also getting some support here from Jocelyn's mom, Alexis, saying this about the proposed legislation. In wake of so much grief, Jocelyn gives me the strength to be her voice and demand justice. Senator Ted Cruz's Justice for Jocelyn Act would have prevented Jocelyn's death. It would have prevented her 2 murderers from being on the street, and it would have meant that Jocelyn would be here with us today. For the safety of kids nationwide, I urge everyone to support Senator Cruz's Justice for Jocelyn Act. So, Senator, do you think that this will get more support, not just from the family, but also will this get passed based on all of this that we've been seeing across our country?
Listen, I very much hope so. Let me say at the outset, Alexis, Jocelyn's mom, has so much courage. She has so much strength. She's a young woman. As she mentioned, she had Jocelyn when she was a teenager, and she's quite young herself, and she's dealing with the agony every day of knowing what happened to her little girl. As a parent myself, I cannot imagine the unbearable pain and grief, and what Jocelyn is doing, what Alexis is doing is using that pain to try to make a difference and to try to protect other children. What Jocelyn's grandfather Kelvin is doing is the same thing. He is standing up and saying, listen, we don't want this death to be the end of it. We want it to cause a change that protects other kids. And anyone looking at the merits, this is a bill that should pass the Senate 100-0. This should be an easy decision. I got to tell you, unfortunately, if passed as prologue, where we are right now is Democrats in Washington are radicalized on the question of immigration and open borders. And so, for example, I'm also the author of Kate's Law. Kate's Law is legislation named after Kate Steinle, a beautiful 28-year-old woman murdered on a pier in California, murdered by an illegal immigrant who was a violent criminal. He'd been in and out of jail repeatedly, over and over and over again. He'd been deported repeatedly. He kept coming in illegally. Kate's Law provides that anyone who is an aggravated felon who repeatedly enters the country illegally faces a mandatory minimum prison sentence of 5 years. It's common sense legislation. Twice I've forced a vote on the floor of the Senate on Kate's Law. Twice, every single Democrat voted no, all of them. 80 to 90% of Americans supports Kate's Law, and yet every Democrat voted no. Just yesterday, and Troy can tell you about this in the House, almost every single Democrat voted against requiring proof of citizenship to vote. The Democrats want illegal aliens to vote because they think they're going to vote for Democrats. Even though it's illegal for illegal aliens to vote, just about every Democrat yesterday voted against requiring proof of citizenship. And so we're going to fight for this, but right now the Democrats are so extreme that it's hard to see many of them coming over and supporting it.
The suspects in Jocelyn's case charged with capital murder, hoping the justice system brings justice to her family, but also this act by Congress, of course, could prevent deaths like hers from happening again. I'm sure you've seen President Biden's immigration policy has certainly not done anything to prevent horrific tragedies like this. You probably both watched the president's disastrous debate performance last week. But Congressman Nehls, would replacing Biden on the Democratic ticket make it easier or more difficult for former President Trump to beat Biden in November?
I think Donald Trump will beat any of them, but for me personally, I want to see Joe Biden stay in the race. The American people know what we have with him. I think his wife Jill is encouraging him to stay in the race. She likes her title. She wants to keep that title. So I like the idea of keeping Joe Biden in the race because I think the American people know what he's done to this country, how he has destroyed it. They're very familiar with Donald Trump's successes in his 4 years. So, Joe, hang in there, buddy. Stay in this thing. Stay in this race because Donald Trump's going to beat you a second time.
Senator Cruz, same question to you. Do you think that it's going to be an easier win for Trump if Biden stays in this race? Or what are you expecting if they do pull him off the ticket? Is that going to make things a little more complicated for former President Trump?
Well, I think the Democrats are in an absolute state of panic. I think they are freaking out. And I put the odds at 80% that they pull Joe Biden, that Joe Biden is not the candidate on the ballot in November. This is something I predicted. I predicted 10 months ago on my podcast, Verdict with Ted Cruz. 10 months ago, I predicted the Democrats were going to pull Joe Biden and replace him with Michelle Obama. I think that's still a very real possibility. I think if they replace him, it will either be Michelle Obama or Kamala Harris. And I will say particularly Michelle Obama would be very dangerous. So in terms of just probabilities of winning, Troy is exactly right that if Joe Biden stays on the ballot, we're going to win, Trump's going to win, and I want Trump to win. I want to change the path this country is on. That's why the Democrats are flipping out. Now, I do think it is revealing. Democrats have known for months, they've known for years, that Biden's mental abilities are severely diminished, that he's facing dementia, that he's not able to do the job.
Right.
And not a single Democrat cared. Nobody on the Democrat side is at all concerned that he can't be commander-in-chief, that he can't look in the eyes of our allies, that he can't stand up to our enemies, that he can't defend this country. They don't care about any of that. Yeah. The only reason they're freaking out is in the debate, the American people saw it, and now they're scared that they're going to lose in November. You don't hear a single Democrat saying, well, gosh, if he has so much dementia that he can't be the candidate, why is he commander-in-chief today? Mm-hmm. And if they actually were responsible, they should be saying he should resign today or we should exercise the 25th Amendment
Senator,
and remove him. Not a single Democrat is saying that.
When do you think that they would make that change? If you're predicting that it could be Obama or potentially Harris, is that coming in the next few days or based on what we see maybe even tonight?
I think it is coming soon. I think it is coming in the next few days. It could happen as late as a week or two after the Democrat convention. That's really the time window between now and I'd say 2 weeks after the Democrat convention. But I think the pressure every day, we're seeing literally every day the major stakeholders. We're seeing Nancy Pelosi suggesting he should pull out. We're seeing Chuck Schumer suggesting he should push out. I think it's 10 elected Democrats have called on him to drop out. We've seen the New York Times come and say he should drop out. We've seen NBC News unloading. We're seeing Hollywood, George Clooney. And I think Democrats are in absolute panic, and I think at the end of the day that they're going to force him out whether he wants to go or not.
Right. Well, tonight might be a big test. We just heard from the White House that they're pushing back this press conference. It's going to be at 6:30 Eastern time. So now, Congressman Nehls, it's a little later even than when President Biden is reportedly in peak performance. 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. here. Is this sort of their way of pushing him out officially? I mean, this is going to be a big test. You now have reporters that have taken off the gloves and they're going to ask tough questions.
Well, I'm sure that press conference, make sure Jill put him to bed early this afternoon, give him his warm milk and make sure he gets a good rest this afternoon. Again, I just believe that I want Joe Biden to be the nominee. I've been saying that for a long time. I do not want to see him replaced. Don't listen, Joe Biden, don't listen to the Hollywood elites. Don't listen to Clooney and some of those other nut jobs. Stay in this thing because I think it's fair for Donald Trump and Joe Biden to debate in November. Donald Trump was a very successful president. Joe Biden's destroyed this America. Let the American people decide. but the American people are looking at Joe Biden. His numbers are they're in the bottom of the ocean right now. His numbers, he's underwater. They're going to do everything they can. I agree with Ted. They want to do everything they can to remove him, the smart Democrats, but I think it's a little too late. Hang in there, Joe. You're going to be all right.
All right, the delegates, they've got him for Joe Biden. Of course, Democrats had prevented anyone else from competing in that Democratic primary. Joe Biden right now is the presumptive nominee. We'll see what happens even tonight. We'll be watching.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time today, gentlemen. Texas Senator Ted Cruz, Texas Congressman Troy Nehls. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.